Welcome, lovies. Today on Naked at Night with Ginjer Wolf, we have a couple special guests. These are actually my realtors out here in Connecticut. I'm really excited to be working with them, but I will let Walisha introduce herself.
Hi, guys. My name is Felicia. I have a podcast called Living Your Truth. You can find us on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram.
That's great. Tell me a little bit about your podcast.
So, Living Your Truth show is a guide for people to self discover, and we use our relationship as a guide to help people live out the courage to find their truth in their relationships. We Living Your Truth show where we have to be extremely vulnerable because our relationship is so public. But, we just want people to navigate the journey of real love using us.
I think that's a great mission statement almost. And it's interesting because when I had the idea for Naked at Night, I really wanted to do candid, honest conversations that most people don't want to have either with themselves, their partner, or with an audience. But I wanted to give people a safe platform because so part of why I feel like you guys are such a good fit, to represent me to buy property and to just come on the show is because we live similar lifestyles.
Right.
I am in what most people would consider an abnormal type of relationship. I have a husband and I have a long-term boyfriend.
Right.
There's no secrets, there's no lies, everybody's open, and it works for
Right.
us. And for so long, I didn't tell people. I had my boyfriend for almost 2 years and didn't tell a lot of people. And after almost I would say a little over a year, a year and a half or so, I just started telling people because he was
Right.
around all the time and I
Right.
didn't know
How
what
do
to
you
say.
explain him?
Right. And I'm always worried that people were like, do you guys do weird sex stuff? I mean, we do weird sex stuff, not necessarily all three of us, but
And then it's not your business.
Right. And I always worry too because I think it's so much more accepted to have a relationship like what you guys have where it's a man and two women. And that was originally what I saw myself having. When I remember when we first started talking, I told you that I remember being in high school and be like, dude, it would be so awesome if there was a boyfriend that could just date me and my best friend and could actually afford it and could handle it. Right. Because we got along so really well. We were together all the time. This was I thought we were gonna be best friends for life. She told people she was my sister, because I felt like she was a part of my family, so it just made sense to me. And I don't know. I never was a possessive type of partner.
Me too. That's so funny that you say that. I'm the same way. And, I think it comes from having a certain confidence. You know who you are. You're you know what? I'm me. And I think that I'm amazing. A lot of people lack the confidence of just knowing who they are and saying, you know what? I'm me and that person is them. So a lot of times people, they become oh no, this is mine. They hold on to something so tight because they don't want to lose it to something else or to someone else.
Right. Well, and so it's so interesting. So there's an analogy, right, of oh, I love flowers. And there's a guy picking all the flowers. Okay, well, do you really love flowers? Because if you love the flowers, you should let them grow and let them be who they are instead of picking them and coveting them and letting them die.
That's right.
Because you want to enjoy the flowers. Let other people enjoy the flowers. The flowers enjoy the sun. The flowers enjoy the ability to grow and be around other flowers.
Wow.
So why would you take them out of the environment do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes. It's so funny that you say that because when I first started dealing with Mr. Marcus, I told him, I said, I use the analogy. If I had a piece of gold and I'm walking down the street and I see somebody else that needs a piece of the gold and they really, really need it. And I'm looking at the gold, looking at the person that needs it. Who am I to say, well, it's my gold? I think that is cruel.
Right.
It is cruel. If I have a whole piece of gold, a piece of the gold doesn't take away from the gold that I have.
Right.
It's just giving somebody else a piece.
Right.
And that's how I look at my partner, gold, because I know that it takes special type of people to be able to be polygamous. It's not an easy thing. It seems fun and all of these things that people think of, but it's really, you have to be committed. And the misconception that people have with polygamy is it's reckless, it's all of these things, and it's not. You have to be committed to yourself first in order to be committed to multiple people, because that's what it is. It's commitment.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that you bring that up because I also feel like there's a common misconception with normal people and normal relationships where they view people who have open relationships, who swing, who are polygamous, or who, they're committed to somebody but have relationships outside of it, ethical non-monogamy.
Mm-hmm.
Um they think that it's essentially cheating that's been normalized, or that it's that we just sleep with each other all the time, and it's like
That's the only thing that people think about, and it's so sad that people are that dense
that
that they
you
could
you break down a relationship just to the
just the
physical
physical.
aspect, because there's so much more that goes into a relationship.
Absolutely.
So it's crazy to me, and that really is what kept me from telling people for a really long time
Mm-hmm.
about like the relationships I wanted to have, because and like I'm from the South,
Mm-hmm.
right? So like I'm
Southern
in the
Belle. I
Bible
like
Belt.
that.
Yeah, I'm in the Bible Belt. So like it was very much like go to church, go to school, graduate high school, get married, have a baby,
Yeah.
and let somebody support you.
All of the things that people want for you instead of what you want for yourself.
Right. And it was so interesting because as a kid, I was just talking about this a couple weeks ago. I was in New York and I was like, dude, as a kid, I always pictured myself in like a high rise in New York, like doing something on Broadway. I'd never been to New York, so I didn't know what it was
Wow.
like,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just interesting to see that like I had this idea and these connections, and like it's still a pull because here I am right outside New York, and like spending time in New York every time we come out here, and getting to like live a lifestyle that I dreamed of, but I was too afraid to take because other people kept telling me who I was and what I should be chasing and what I should be doing, instead of letting me experiment. Because worst thing that happens is I fail, right?
Right.
And why are
That's
you
it.
more scared for me to fail than I am?
That's right.
And I think that's what happened with me, was people kept projecting their fears onto me, and it made me believe that I had to live the way other people live, and I didn't thrive that way. I was a drug addict for a long time. I carried a lot of shame that I feel like now, as a sober adult, or sober-ish adult, looking back on it, someone who's not participating in crazy things and doing destructive behavior anymore. I'm like, that was never really my stuff to carry.
Right.
Like, people put it on me and I took it on because like they're constantly crushing me with the weight of their judgment and the weight of like who they believed I should be. And how dare I have the nerve to
Be
believe that I
something
could be
else.
more than that.
That's right.
Right. Um, so I feel like this is why I wanted to create this space and have these conversations, because there are so many people. Y'all are sharing half your people with other people anyway, and there's just not open conversation about it. I hate to be the person to
That's
say
right.
that. I'm not trying to be nasty because I already know people are going to come for me, but
Oh
I'm not
yeah.
saying that there aren't genuine relationships and amazing human beings who say, hey, like, I want to stay on the same page. Like, we need to really have a good connection and open, candid conversation. And they're monogamous and they're happy, but that is not the majority of the population.
That's right.
There's a lot of people out there who are like out chasing rainbows. There are people that are married on all these different dating apps because everything is a click away now, right?
Yes.
So before, you used to be competing with like your neighbor or the girl in your high school and like when I say competing, I don't really mean
Right.
competing,
Right. It's
right?
just
I just mean
yeah.
like it's between, like, if you're in a typical, one-on-one monogamous relationship with another human being, right? You only have, before social media, right? For
Mm-hmm.
the most part, you only had the people in your close vicinity.
That's right.
It wasn't so easy to connect with people that were of a different class or a different area because you just didn't have access to them.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But now with cell phones and the internet and all this social media and all these
The
dating apps,
accessibility.
right. So it's like I don't have to choose from this one little section. I have all these other options, but most people don't want to be alone,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not willing to say, well, I want to date other people, or I would like this kind of relationship.
Because it's so frowned upon and it
So they
sucks.
lie.
Yeah.
Or they pretend like, oh, well, I want what I think it is that you want. Because again, a lot of people haven't had these really honest conversations with
Mm-hmm.
themselves or the people that they're casually dating, right? So then you have these situations where I hear it all the time. Women think they're in a monogamous relationship, and then or somebody, let's not even say just women, because
Right.
men get cheated on too.
Mm-hmm.
They think they're in a monogamous relationship and they think everybody's happy, and then they pick up the phone one day, or they get an email, or they check their partner's stuff, or it comes on the screen on the TV because it was synced, and all of a sudden they are finding out that the person's been cheating on them for years
Yep.
and having all these other relationships. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
And
it's just restriction. That's all that it is. And the more and more people are like they're running with a certain narrative of, you have to be with one person, you have to commit one person, and it deters people from wanting to be themselves, because we have things that we want to do. We most of the time suppress what we feel to make the other person happy or to not make them upset. And what we're doing is we're walking on eggshells, where we're putting aside what we really want, believe in, because society says you should only be with one person, or people are, they have these misconceptions on what it is to date multiple people. And it's like, we have to get out of that, caring about what people think and living this life for us. I think about all the people who are not happy, but they're with one person, or they're living a certain way. And it's like, okay, do you want to live your whole life suppressing yourself because of what other people think? Or do you want to live the way you want to live and actually flourish and get somewhere and be happy about it and feel good every day that you wake up? My biggest thing is, I never want my partner to resent me. I never want him to get 56 years old and look me in my eyes and say, you know what? We've been together 30 years. We've been together 40 years, and I didn't get to do this. I didn't get to experience this. I think that would crush me.
Yeah.
It would crush me, because I would never want him to feel like because he's with me, he's suppressing himself.
Right.
That is cruel.
Right. And I love that, because like I used to always say, if you want to have an experience with another person, who am I to tell you no?
That's right.
As long as like everybody's on the same page, right? Like I don't believe in, well, if you want to go have an experience with that person, that's fine, but you need to let them know, like,
That's
hey,
right.
this is my situation, this is what I'm looking for, and just be upfront. Don't lie and don't mislead anybody, because I feel like relationships are so much better and they're beautiful when you can look at them honestly and accept them for what they are. But
That's
everybody has to be consensual in like, hey, I know what's going on and I know what I'm walking into, because it can be so damaging when they don't. Can you tell me a little bit about like your childhood, and like were your parents monogamous? Would you have a two-parent household? What was it like growing up?
Me growing up, my Black American family, my parents used to fight a lot. My dad is younger than my mom, and I'm a daddy's girl. I love my dad. Like, I chose to live with him from 11 to 26, and a major part of who I am is because of my dad. Having that balance. A lot of people would think that it's an imbalance because I'm a lot like my dad than my mom. And I say that to say, women are usually more emotional than they are logical. That's just the nature of how we are. My dad raising me, I have a lot of his characteristics. So I'm a lot like him. And it's so funny because in relationships prior to my current one now, I've been told, oh, you're like a guy, or you're your father. And it's so strange because it's like, who else am I supposed to be like?
That's who I was raised by. That was my homie.
Yes.
Like,
and I understand why they say that. It's because I'm not as emotional. I'm not as, like how women are, like jealous and territorial and, insecure and all of these things, because my father instilled a lot of principles in me growing up with him. Like the way he was with my stepmom, I saw that. Him telling me, listen, don't call nobody 5 times, and don't question a man, and don't ask him where he is. Listen, just be yourself. Work on yourself. If you perfect your character and become better every day, you will never have nothing to worry about in any relationship, because people are going to notice that you're valuable. And those things stuck with me. I saw him tell my stepmother, listen, don't call me, wait till I call you. And that's just because he didn't want to be bothered. It wasn't necessarily because he was cheating or anything. And if he was, then he was. But I know that she was always happy. They had their little arguments and stuff like that, but everything was taken care of. My dad is a provider. My stepmom didn't go without anything. She loved him. We had no issues. We always had food. We always had what we needed. And my dad was always responsible. I never could contradict him in any way. When he told me something, I listened. But on the other hand, with my mom, I naturally saw a lot of contradictions in her actions, but I always say that she did the best that she could, the
Right.
same way my dad did the best that he could. And it's just about character. That's what it all boils down to, integrity, who you are when nobody is looking. And, we do the best that we can based on where we come from. I was back and forth between my mom's and my dad's. And I always say my mom's house was the party house. I can get away with murder because she wasn't as firm as my dad. And I do appreciate the balance because I was able to see both sides. Like, I think I've experienced so many things as a kid, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Being with my mom, I had the freedom, but I didn't always have what I needed. I would go days without having money or having food because as much as we think that we want the freedoms of certain things, it does come with a price. Now it's like with my dad, I'm like, okay, I don't got no freedom, but I got my hair done. I got money in my pocket. My grades are good. I had structure there. And every time I got in trouble at my dad's, he would send me to my mom's.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it was fun for a little while because I'm like, all right, yeah, I want to have
do
my
what
friends.
I want.
Yeah, it's party time. I'll have my friends come over, stuff like that. But then after a while, I started to say, okay, yeah,
this isn't good for me.
This isn't good. I'm on the phone, Dad. All right, listen, I learned my lesson. I need to come back because I had to get back in order.
Right.
So I definitely appreciate the way that I grew up because I was able to see both sides. And a lot of people don't get to see that. You become curious and you do things. And a lot of the things that we do as children, we can't always come back from.
Right. 100%.
So you're experimenting, you're learning yourself, you're going through things, by yourself with your siblings. I didn't really have a close relationship with my siblings because, we have different dads. So technically I would say my mom has a form of polygamy because there's different dads. And a lot of people don't want to accept that.
Yeah.
But me and my siblings don't have the same dads. A lot of things that I experienced as a child was like, sibling rivalry, and we would fight a lot. And, we just didn't come from the same place.
Yeah.
And I felt so alone as a child.
Yeah.
And in one of our episodes in Living Your Truth, episode 5, I spoke about feeling lonely my entire life. I've always felt lonely outside of my dad. And my partner, Mr. Marcus, I told him, I'm like, yo, I felt lonely my whole life other than being with you. Like when it comes to friends and siblings, because the way I grew up, I had to grow up by myself, fast, and under the rule of my dad. And it's like, damn, like I love my dad, but it's like, oh, that's just dad. But I didn't really have anything else to cling to. A lot of my experiences I had to go through by myself. I couldn't tell my siblings because they would tell on me. Like I didn't really have the space to I didn't have anybody to really confide in because it was just me by myself. I had to grow and do things by myself. Yeah. Seeing the way my mom lived and then seeing the way my dad lived, it was like I was bounced back and forth. And it was tough. It was tough. Like, my friends became like my siblings. So then it became, am I choosing the right friends? Do these people, are they aligned with who I am? It was a lot of experimenting and trial and error. But my dad kept me grounded. He was my best friend. He would always tell me, listen, tell me everything. Even if you think I'm going to be upset, tell me because I'm the only person that's going to be able to save you. I understand you're growing up. I know you're going to get into things, but just always tell me. And, I always told him everything. And it was things that I didn't even think I could tell him that I was able to be open about. And, the way he wasn't as expressive and reactive. He was just always so stern. And it was scary, but the way he always embraced me, it made me feel like, okay, yeah, everything is okay. Because if I can't tell him, who can I tell? I lived with him. He raised me. And I just appreciate who he is as a person, And every day I call him, I thank him. I'm like, yo, like I would be a totally different person if you weren't in my life because I really don't know where I would be. I would be so different had I not had the structure and the discipline. My dad came to every parent-teacher conference. He didn't miss one. It always landed on his day off. I'm like, gee, just my luck, huh?
Yeah.
I remember he came to my high school and one of the teachers was like, oh, she's never here. I'm like, man, if looks could kill, I would have melted in my seat. But he showed up to everything that I've ever did. He came to every parent-teacher conference. He took me to every first day of school. He met my friends, like people that I dated. He embraced them. Like I'm just so appreciative to have had that structure and also the freedom because as stern as he was, he still kind of allowed me to have a childhood. He never restricted me. I was always able to, like, listen to what I want to listen to, and, just be expressive. And, he would always take me shopping. Like, growing up in the city, you're around other kids that's doing city things. And, I was allowed to do it to an extent. It wasn't reckless. But I appreciate who he was. My mom, like I said, she did the best she could. And, I feel like today our relationship is a lot better than it was back then. And I'm a lot more patient with her today because I had to grow up and say, you know what, like, I can't be mad at her for not doing certain things or for being the way that she was growing up, because she was doing the best that she could. So I learned to give her grace, for who she is today. I'm like, you know what, you're just you. I can't be mad at anybody for being who they are. What people have to want to grow, they have to want to make these changes. And if they don't, we still got to love them for them.
Right. When your parents were getting divorced, were you relieved?
So they were never married.
Oh, okay. So when they split.
Yeah. So they used to, when I was young, they used to argue a lot and stuff like that. And I even young, it's funny. I was just telling Mr. Marcus this the other day. I met my stepmom when I was 4, my dad's wife. And the first thing I said to her at 4 was, she didn't speak any English. She's from Dominican Republic. I said, my mother got a big mouth. And I was 4. And she doesn't speak any English, but my dad had to go to work and he left me with her. And she said, I was just talking, showing her all of these things. I was excited because I liked her.
Yeah.
And she said, she's looking at me. And I said, my mother got a big mouth, right? And she's like, she don't understand. So when my dad came home from work, she's like, your daughter says something to me, but I don't understand. And he's like, what did she say? And she said, her mother got a big mouth. And he just started laughing. And I'm 4,
yeah,
but I liked
hilarious.
her. And I knew how rough my mom is. Being from the Bronx, New York, we have that spice. And I knew the difference between her and my mom at 4.
Right.
And I liked her, but I wanted to warn her, like, my mom is a little crazy. Like,
was she softer than your mom?
Yes,
was she much
very,
more like
very,
warm?
yeah, a little older. Dominican. She's very, they live a certain way. So very, very soft, very patient. I understood the difference that young. So me telling her that was like me warning her, and she never forgot it. So it was so funny to me. But I understood that young that my parents had to do what was best for them. Like, they weren't good together. My dad had me young. He was 17, turning 18. Like, we're 5 days apart in birthday. So even that young, I understood, like, they had their issues. They, argue and fight and stuff like that. But that was just so normal. Like, relationships are not going the way that, they weren't living in their truth, whatever that was for them back then. So I wasn't sad about it because I understood. My dad talked to me enough where I could understand why things was happening. Like, he would always say, it's okay. Just because things are not working out with me and your mom doesn't mean that anything is going to change. Like, he assured me enough to know that I didn't have anything to worry about. And like I said, even as a kid, I understood who my parents were.
Right.
And I think a lot of times people don't take time to understand that. Just as kids, we understand who our parents are, and our parents understand who we are, even as kids.
You seem very intuitive naturally, and I don't think that. So I feel like I'm kind of like that too. Like, I can tell like a lot about a person within the first few minutes of meeting them, and like a lot of their nonverbal cues I pick up on. And I used to always think that everybody was like that, and then as an adult, I realized that it's not.
No.
It's absolutely not. Most people don't take the time to learn people enough to be able to understand how to read a room when it's silent.
It's psychology. And my dad, being who he is, he naturally put those things on me as a kid too, where I was reading at 8, 9, and 10. He had me writing book reports. I'm a person that studies people. Like, I loved psychology. I've been in healthcare most of my life. And you naturally have to read people for who they are almost instantly. And I think that's something that you have to be taught as a kid from your parents. Like, listen, these are different types of people. This is how you go about this. Just reading and just, being exposed to understanding who people are. A lot of people, I would say, they live under a rock. They just don't know. They don't know how to interact with people. They don't know how to not engage with people. They don't know because they just don't have the experience, the exposure.
Yeah. If you took anything away from like the relationship that your father had with his with, I guess, your stepmom?
Mm-hmm.
Did they get married?
Yes.
Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
with your stepmom, did you ever look at it and feel like this is how I want to be and this is how I want my kids to feel because she was so warm and inviting compared to like the relationship that you had with your mom?
Wow, that's a good question. You know, I never really, it just seems so normal for me. I never looked at their relationship and said, this is how things should be for me, but I accepted their relationship because it's the reason why I am the way that I am, but I never compared it to how I should be. And that's mainly because of everything that was instilled in me as a child. It just felt so natural. Like it just felt like, okay, this is how I'm supposed to be. You know, whatever's for me is going to find me. Has it been a great example for me? Absolutely. But I do understand the differences between my stepmom and me and my mom because, her being from a different place, me being from the city, I understand the differences. I never compared it only because, like I said, it was just my norm. Like it didn't feel like, oh my
Right,
God, it just felt like, oh, like she's been in my life so long. It's like, I don't really know anything else.
right.
But it was a great example. I will say it was a great example. And, a lot of my characteristics also come from her too. Just me seeing certain things. I think it does play a factor in how I am today with friends and with family, just because it was just a part of who I was for so long.
Right. What were you like as a kid? Like how when it went to interacting with, your peers? Like and when I say kid, I mean like middle school going into like preteen.
I was just like my dad.
Were you
And I
more
I say that because my dad he's very stern, he's very forward, he's very intentional. And for me, I think that people don't expect me to be that way, because I'm a girl. They
right?
like they naturally pinpoint women to be weaker
I
and
know.
more like a little peep squeak, and that's not me at all. I'm the total opposite of that. So
Same.
when people meet me, it's like, oh wow, like they either really love me or they love me but then dislike me at the same time because I kind of put things in their face where it's like, hey, why are you not doing that? Like I'm naturally holding people accountable because I hold myself accountable. So as a kid, I was still very expressive, very talkative, very open, inviting, but still like, hey, nah, you shouldn't be doing that. Or listen, I don't do that. And people would be like, wow, like you actually have the courage to say like, this is not for you versus other people who can be easily persuaded and pursued into doing things that's not really them. I was never that. I was like, hey, look, that's not for me. But if you want to do what I'm doing, you're more than welcome to. Um, I've struggled with maintaining real friendships and relationships because of who I am, how strong I am, how forward and intentional I am, because I never want people to deceive me because that's not who I am. I feel like I'm such a great person to people. And it's like, I don't necessarily expect them to be the way that I am. I just expect you to be you, but just be kind to me. However you
Respect
are,
me. Yeah,
respect
I'm gonna
me.
always respect you, even
That's
if we
it.
don't get along, we don't see eye to eye. Like we could still be in the same room in the
Right.
same vicinity. There's no
Right.
reason to have any animosity, or to treat each other as less than.
Yeah.
Did you have more issues with women than you did with men growing up? Because so that was a common theme with me. I was related to men more because I was a little more brash. I was tended to be louder. And this is again like so I was totally different in like elementary school, middle school. I got bullied a lot and picked on a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then like once I hit ninth grade or so, I kind of turned into a totally different person. I was like, I'm just not taking anybody's shit anymore. Um, and I felt like it was so much easier for me to make male friends than it
Mm-hmm.
was for me to make female friends. I never really got along with like the clicky girls. I never really belonged to one group of people. I was kind of like all over the board. And I felt like it was because a lot of people couldn't handle my strong personality.
That's good. I can't really say, it varied because it's not like I was like intentionally seeking male friends.
Right.
It was just like, if you were cool, you were cool. But
Right.
I was always mindful because at times I would go into something with like a guy and like, oh yeah, you're cool. They would always end up liking me. And the same thing for like women. Like I would be like, hey, you're my friend. And then they would end up just because of how like nurturing I am and just like, people not being used to having a person around that's so attentive and caring. It's like I would go into something hoping for a friendship, and it would always turn into something else. So I don't think that it was ever gender based. It varied.
Yeah, just love was love.
Yeah.
Did you ever think in like high school that you would be in the type of relationship that you're in now? Did you ever like give thought to anything like that?
I always I always knew that it was something that I wanted, but I never connected with a person that was able to handle it in
Right.
all aspects. You know, people naturally get excited with the idea like, "Oh my god, I can have two women." It's like the excitement is cool, but that's not what's going to hold this relationship together.
Right.
So for me, I've always naturally went into relationships telling people like, hey, like, I would love a sister wife someday. Like, this is who I am. I don't want anybody to take this from me. I don't want, that's not what I want to do. And I won't do that to you as well. So for me, I just never found the person that could handle it. And I hate to use the word handle, but it's like in all aspects,
No.
financially, being emotionally intelligent, being committed,
Mhm.
not being reckless, because you can easily tell somebody, hey, listen, do whatever you need to do, but do it right.
Don't make me look stupid.
That's it.
Yeah.
Because making me look stupid, you're making yourself look stupid first, because
Right.
I'm a connection to you. I'm an
Right.
extension. So for me, I've, dated guys, and I would tell them, and they would always say, oh, no, that's not for me. And I'm like, yeah, neither are you, because that
Yeah.
means that you lack the confidence. Even if that's not something that you want, it's like the fact that you're just shooting it down without even understanding why it's so important to me. It just lets me know right there that you're avoiding commitment. You're not committed to yourself. Because any man that is confident will say, yo, I think I can pull that off, because they know who they are by themselves.
That's so interesting, and that's such a perspective that I never would have thought of like that. I always look at it as like, I think a lot of men, they look at this as like, oh well, people will view me as less than
Right.
if I share the person that I say I'm committed to with another man,
Right.
or even, but it's cool if you do it with another woman. Like, so it's like the weird stigma of like, you're the man
double
if you have
standard.
two women, right? But if the woman sees two men, it's like I think the society looks at it as if both men, or at least one of the men, is less than.
Right.
And I hate that, because I feel like that's so not true, because my experience is that only very special people, and they're always high earners. They're always people who are very secure within themselves.
That's
so
right.
I'm really realizing this as you're saying it, because like you're right. Like
people
it is
just lack confidence.
It's a confidence thing, and it's like an ability to execute.
That's
right.
right.
Because if you have the confidence but you have the inability to execute
You will
this
find
and
it,
make it in your day-to-day life, it's going to be a struggle until you are able to figure out how to navigate that.
Yep.
So that's really interesting that you were, so like I said, you're very perceptive. That's really interesting. How old were you when you went into your first poly relationship? Was this your first poly relationship?
Yes.
So did he present the idea to you? How did you guys meet?
So we actually went to the same high school.
Okay.
And we reconnected in our adult years, and oh boy.
Did you have a thing for him ever in high school? Or were you guys
friends?
Or
Funny story. So the person that I dated when I was first in high school, it was a girl that I knew. She actually wanted the person that I was with. And then when she was with him, my partner now, so we basically were supposed to be with each other's boyfriends in high school.
Right.
And it just never happened. So we reconnected in our adult years, and when we first started speaking, he was in a relationship. So, he would just always I always say he was in that DM. Like he would write to me, and we would just watch each other's stories and small talk, and we realized that we were alike. And his ex, she actually would always invite me to game nights, and I would always naturally say, oh, who's going to be there? And he was always there. And I'm like, I don't eat like everybody. And she always say, oh, well, Mike doesn't eat, he eats like you too. And it always stuck to me, because I'm like, why's she telling me that? And naturally, when anybody says someone eats like you, I'm like, okay, if they eat like me, they probably do a lot of other things like me, because it takes a level of awareness to even not eat certain things. And you have to be in a certain space.
For our audience, you're pescatarian.
Yes.
So you don't eat land animals, right? You just eat sea animals and vegetables and stuff. Okay.
So when she would say that, I'm like, So it sparked my interest. So I would like watch his stories and he would like comment on my stories. And then one day he just was like, hey, like, like let's catch up. And I was actually fasting. Like, it's funny, we're in Ramadan right now. I was actually fasting and I was like, well, there's a lot of things that I can't really do. So like, I don't know how this is going to work. And he's like, well, what would you like to do? And I was like, food is always ideal. So he ended up coming to my apartment later than expected, but it was cool. I was up. I was excited to see him. And we literally talked for 8.5 hours straight.
Wow.
And at that time in my life, there was a lot of things that I was struggling with. I was living by myself. I had just lost my job. Like, it was a lot that I was going through mentally, but nobody would have ever known that because I'm still me. I still got my dad to call.
Strong personality, yeah.
That's it. Like, nothing could bring me down. I was by myself. I had time to struggle by myself, but also be by myself in order to understand that I was struggling, but still me as a person.
I literally just had this conversation with Letitia and Ian earlier, and I was like, I feel like the times where I was by myself, I had so much growth because I was really intentional and I was very focused on whatever it was I was trying to do. If I was trying to like build up my body and like lose weight or be healthier, then that happened and like tenfold what it would have done if I had to split my time and
with
focus
other people.
on a partner.
That's right.
So it's so interesting to hear you say that. Okay, so you guys connected the first time. You have this wonderful night. What happens after that?
So we spoke 8.5 hours straight, and just in that conversation, I just told him, I was like, hey, like, so what made you come here? He's like, well, you invited me. And we just started talking. I was like, well, listen, I've been through a lot with relationships, and like, I just gave him the whole spiel. And I always say, like, and that night he was my unofficial best friend. Like, we told each other everything. And, as I was talking, I was telling him about guys that I've dealt with and that I was actively talking to. Like, it was nothing that I couldn't tell him in that moment, because in my head, I'm like, you came over here, you're in my apartment, it's 12 o'clock at night. Like, what do you want? Like, what's up? I was ready to go move with my dad or go to Middletown where he is. And I was just like, there's nothing here for me anymore. Like, I'm by myself. Like, I'm going through all of these things by myself. So like, what is this? Like, what did you come here for? Like, it was me just trying to understand where he was mentally, and just let him know where I was. It's like, okay, hey, you came here. You're probably going to want to come here often. So what is this going to lead to? And we spoke about everything under the sun. And he said something to me. And in that moment, I knew that he liked me. He said, well, how do you feel about a guy that, has a stepson and a girlfriend? How specific, right? So I'm like,
This is the right man.
Yeah. So I'm like, it's funny that you say that. I said, because, I was in a situation where I ended up talking to a man that was married. I didn't know that he was married, and he was in a different state. And, we talked every day on FaceTime, and, like, in my head, I'm like, yo, you live in another state. Am I expecting you to not have somebody? No, but he never said that he was married.
Right.
And
the non-disclosure is what kills me.
Right. And
Just
we
let
were,
me know.
yeah. And we were so cool. Like, we had like a lot of things in common. And one day he came to see me and he didn't have his phone. And I'm like, it broke my heart. Like, to be very honest with you, broke my heart, because I'm like, I already immediately in that moment, I'm like, all right, yeah, like this is real. Like, so I'm like, you don't have your phone? He's like, oh yeah, I'm just using I have to use my dad's phone, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, all right. In my head, I'm like,
why?
How?
Is it for tracking or something?
I guess so. Well, I didn't know that at the time. So I'm like, I didn't even think of it. So in my head, I'm like, all right, I see what this is going to be. He came to see me. I'm like, yeah, this is going to be a one and done. We did what we did. As soon as he went back, I was like, yeah, like, you're done. Like, I spent all of these months talking to you, developing a connection with you. The first time you come see me, you don't got your phone. Like, I was born that night, but not last night. Like, what is this? So I cut him off. And then all of a sudden, like, he would like blow my phone up and he's like, oh, what happened? And I'm like, yo, like, something's you came
off.
To see me without your phone. Then he ended up telling me, oh, I'm married and I think that she had a tracker. And I'm like, yo, like, you put me in a weird situation.
You put me at risk.
Yeah. Too. I'm like, you came to my house, like, you're married. I'm like, yo, I'm like, out of all the things that we talked about, you really don't think that you could have told me that? Like, now you put me in a weird situation because we did what we did and you're married. Like, I just, like, that makes me feel crazy. And it was bad. He was like calling my phone like after it was sick. But it made me look at him differently because now you're corny to me. Like, now I don't believe anything that you say.
Right,
Because it's
you
like
can't be trusted.
you can't be trusted. And any way I ever felt about you, I don't feel that way anymore because you lied to me. And
Right.
I'm the wrong
So
person to lie to.
accepting.
Right.
I'm
It's
so
like,
accepting.
me?
Why can't you just tell me?
Out of all people, me. So that right there, it
yeah,
turned
you're
me
ashamed
off.
of whatever it is that you're doing. That's why you can't tell me, because it's not me that's going to
Yeah.
shame you and judge, it's you.
That's right. And I just think about my character as a person. I'm like, out of all people, like, you had to lie to me. So when Mr. Marcus asked me that, I was like, funny story. And then I ended up telling him about that. And then I'm looking at him like, he's like, well, yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, I am in a relationship. I do have a stepson. And I was just like, okay. Because at the end of the day, I told him, I said, listen, that has nothing to do with me. Like, we're friends. Like, we know each other from high school. We're just two people talking. It's Ramadan. I'm fasting. Like, I don't expect anything from this. Like, I didn't tell him I'm leaving. I'm going here. So it didn't really mean anything to me that he told me that, because I'm like, hey, like, that's your life. That's your business. That's cool. I had no intention on being with him. I had no intention on doing anything. It was just two people talking. And I realized that I liked talking to him. He liked talking to me too. After that 8.5 conversation, he came back the next day. I cooked for him.
Nice. What'd you cook?
I made like some plant-based pastelitos, like,
Okay.
like the dough, and it was really good. And I just wrote him like, hey, did you break your fast yet? He was like, yeah. I was like, are you hungry? He's like, yeah. He was actually going out for one of his friend's birthdays, and he came before to eat with me. He went out, and then he came back. Now I'm like scratching my head like, okay, you spent a lot of time here.
Yeah.
And, we just continued talking, and, he started to come see me more often. And I never made him feel bad about like coming to see me, with the fact that he had a relationship. And I just used to always tell him like, hey, like, a guy like you, like, women are going to like you. Like, you deserve to live restriction free. Like, you're in business. You're a motivational speaker. Like, you have so many avenues and things going on. Like, who am I to restrict you? Or who am I to make you feel bad about, spending time with me? We're connecting. It was nothing physical. It was just conversation.
Was she not in a position where she wanted to be in an open relationship?
No.
So okay, so he wanted it, but he wasn't in an open relationship at that point.
Right.
Understood.
So
okay.
he didn't. So I
you guys were
introduced
just
him
developing a friendship.
Yes.
Right. Just so the audience is very clear. It's
Yes.
just a friendship.
Yes.
But there's obviously feelings for each other, but nobody crossed any boundaries. That's great.
Yeah, and I would ask him like, how was she? And he basically told me like a lot about her character. Like, this is not something that she would be okay with, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, well, that's cool. Well, I didn't feel bad or anything because it's just like, we're just connecting. And eventually, I pretty much like talked him into like, yo, like, you might as well just be polygamous because you're kind of doing it anyway. And I would always make jokes to him, and it would make him like, I would see how it kind of like stumped him. I would say, I'm your second girlfriend. Mm-hmm. And he'd be like he would just naturally get so nervous. And I'm like, it's okay. Like, you can say it. Like, it's nobody here. But in those moments, he was realizing that he liked me more than he should. Mm-hmm. I liked him more than I should. So it was hard for him to accept, like, because of her. Like, that's not something she would ever agree to. So for a while, she didn't know about me. He was just like coming to see me and going back home to, to live with her. And I, a lot of people now, they ask me, oh, do you feel bad? I'm like, no, because
he wasn't being true to himself.
He was, yeah.
He was stifled.
Yeah. Like, he was in a pickle because he realized like, wow, like he really had feelings. We had feelings for each other. And eventually he told her, and she just said, she don't see herself living life that way, which is understandable. And, like, I think us being together was one of the best things for both of us. Like, I really feel like we needed each other, and, I don't regret it. We tried very hard for a long time to avoid what we felt and avoid certain things happening, but we just couldn't.
How long were you friends before you became like intimate relationship? Like,
not very long. Okay. And the reason why I say that is because like, it was just so much conversation. It was so much. We had time.
Mhm.
Like like I said, I wasn't working at the time. All we had was time. And we would talk every day. We would spend time. We would spend a lot of time. Like I was like cooking for him. I was just treating him the way that I just wanted him to feel.
Did she have any animosity towards you at all?
I don't know. We've never really had a conversation ever.
Okay.
Um,
At what point did he was it that he was like, okay, I'm gonna leave this relationship and pursue a relationship with you
so let's just say like it was March. We
when
were,
you first met?
mm-hmm.
Okay.
And, you know, I think he told her like maybe August.
Okay.
So, within those times, we were experiencing things like, we had traveled, like we were doing a lot of things. And man, I'm spilling a lot of tea. People don't know this. We were just spending a lot of time, and eventually he just was like, I'm about to tell her. And I was like, tell her what? And he's like, I gotta tell her. He's like, this doesn't feel good for me. Like I feel crazy.
Yeah, I have feelings for you, but I'm in a committed relationship with somebody else. It's very confusing.
And one thing I do respect about him is that, like, I respect the fact that he made that decision on his own. I never told him like, hey, when are you gonna tell her? I never made him feel that way, because I just used to tell him like, listen, like, I know who you are. And I'm just happy to be here. Like, I never, oh, when are you going to tell her? No, I never did that to him. I never made him feel bad about what he was doing, because I understood what he was feeling. And he was feeling the same thing I was feeling. Like, wow, I think this is my person.
Yeah. So how long have you guys been together now?
We never tell anybody,
Okay.
ever. Because and the reason why is because we don't value time.
Okay.
There's people that will be like, oh yeah, we've been
But you
together
haven't
5 years and they've
But
only
if
been
it's
happy
been 5
2.
shitty years, yeah.
Yeah. So
versus okay, so
we never tell, but I will honestly say that our relationship progressed very quickly. It's like when you just know,
that's how they go though.
Yeah.
When it's the right person and the timing is right, everything falls into place just as it should almost immediately.
Yes, I'll tell you, like, we reconnected March. Then we were spending the time with each other, April, May. Then my birthday came, he told her around in the same month, August. We went to like his family's wedding. I met his mother September. We moved in November. Here we are today.
That's great.
It was not very long at all. And it's just based off of what we felt and how consistent
You guys
we both
operate
were.
like you're married. That's
we're
the
engaged
vibe.
now.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
congratulations. As I
thank
say,
you.
because that's
Yeah.
the vibe that I get from you guys, is like you were a long-term married couple.
Yeah.
Just from my few conversations with you guys. If there's one thing that you want the audience to take from your experience and the way you live your life, what would it be?
Don't restrict yourself. Whatever you feel, whatever you know is right, you should do it. And a lot of times people are living in secrecy.
Yeah.
Be yourself. If you feel like you deserve something, go for it. You are what you repeatedly do, and you are who you are when nobody is looking. Integrity. And in my circumstance, I felt a little weird, like, and I always say, like, I'm your side chick. Like, and that term is so thrown out loosely that it makes people feel bad. And I don't feel bad about our relationship today because of where we are. And just go with you feel. I feel like people should not stay in relationships for any other reason that has nothing to do with them.
Right.
People are worried about what their parents think, what their friends think. Like, I know my mom probably hates the fact that I'm polygamous, but she's also a Muslim. Polygamy is permissible Islamically. So it's like she can't really tell me much.
Right.
So you have to live for you. Whatever it is that you want out of this life, do it. Whatever's not serving you, leave it alone. Whatever can add to your growth and continue to add to your happiness, because nothing can make you happy. Only you can make you happy.
Be true to yourself.
Whatever adds to your happiness, what doesn't take away from you, what doesn't make you feel bad, go for it. Because here I am, we the way we started, it's like I never thought we would be here. I did not want a relationship. I didn't want to be with him. I was just ready to just do something totally different, but God had other plans.
That's amazing. It's such a beautiful story too, to hear like how open and accepting you were, and how you allowed him to essentially lead him to his truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a beautiful thing. I'm really excited to have met you guys.
Yes.
So,
I just want people to do what serves them, and whatever's not serving you, whatever is not making you feel good, you got to eliminate it, because there's life to live. And you don't want to get to old age and be one of those people that's working with young people and you're hating on them because they're living the way that you never did.
Right. And I really respect what you said about not valuing time, right? Because I think I have had relationships that were very long and very toxic. You know, I was with the wrong
It's like, what
person
did you
for
get from it?
7 years, and all it was a huge learning experience. It's something I had to heal from, and
Yeah.
I'm still healing from. So, and I've had relationships that were, shorter, 6 months, a year, 2 years, and it was the best relationship I'd ever been
That's
in.
right.
And it ended because of timing or because of location or just we were on different paths or whatever. But it's always nice too to know that like there's not a relationship other than the one that was toxic that I didn't feel I could go back to if I wanted to, but I always wanted to keep moving forward. And it sounds like you guys had so many options pathwise, right? And you were able to walk hand in hand on similar paths,
right,
but different journeys while doing it together.
Yes.
And I think that's what like I always want to tell people when it comes to marriage is so many people think that marriage is, well, we're becoming one and our journey is the same and our paths are the same. No, we're two separate individuals who choose to continue to live our lives together.
Yes.
And we can choose to walk this path together, but we each have our own separate trials and tribulations and we go through them with each other. But like I can't do your journey for you. I can't do your walk for you. I can't carry you, right? Like you have to put your feet to the ground and do it yourself. I'm just choosing to be here with you while you do that, whatever that looks like.
Yeah. And people lose their individuality in relationships. And that's like a big thing.
Often.
You know, like the whole happy wife, happy life thing. It's like, what about the man?
Yeah.
So I think people need to, just understand who they are. Do the inner work. I always say that. Do the inner work. If you do the inner work and understand who you are, what you come with, anything else outside of you shouldn't bother you.
Yeah.
But people get into a lot of, Mike talks about it all the time, like married guys lose their swagger, like because you're doing everything for the woman. But it's like both people need to be equally happy.
Yeah.
Individually and together.
Yeah. I need to be happy with who I am myself and you need to be happy with who you are yourself. And we both need to have like a forward motion.
Yes.
We both need to be growing. Because the most toxic and deadly thing for me is like stagnancy.
Yes.
Like if you're not growing with me, we're growing apart. And we can grow together, but still be on separate paths and like be involved in each other's lives, and that still be a workable relationship.
Absolutely.
But once one person is doing all the growing and the other person's just, I refuse to do anything.
It's like a seesaw.
Yeah, it's not balanced and it just doesn't work anymore. Even if you're growing in different ways.
Yep.
Like you both need to grow. This has been a really great episode. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your truth with us. And I actually can't wait to tune into your podcast as well.
Yes, thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.